This is The Herd, wherever you may be and however you may be listening, live in Los Angeles on iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, and FS1 with Christine Leahy joining me today, surprisingly on a Tuesday. We're jammed today. Peter King is going to join us in 20 minutes. Packed. Joe Buck will be on the show today on the couch as well. Very excited to be here. Yes, I was excited. I was on Twitter last night because Andrew Luck was amazing, and you know I love Andrew Luck. But what I really love, Christine, I want to start the show with this today. Here's what I really love. I like consistent people. I like consistent people. Okay. So what I like are people that are into the right stuff, and they're consistent. So my friends, like the guys I hang out with, they're into their families, and they show up on time. They're into the right stuff, and they're consistent. And it's so funny who we've decided to pick on, Andrew Luck, and who we've always decided to defend, Cam Newton. And let's go back to what I like. I like consistent performers in my life, and I like people who like the right stuff. If you're a guy that's into cars, jewelry, you're not my guy. Are you into your kids? You're my kind of guy. Are you into your family? You're my kind of guy. Are you into doing smart stuff? You're my kind of guy. Do you hang around with good people? You're my kind of guy. Andrew Luck, last night, 9th career game with at least 4 touchdown passes. That's double Cam. But we love Cam and defend him in every turn, and Andrew Luck, we pick on. Andrew Luck is in his 5th year. If you just take away 7 games last year when he had a lacerated kidney, so let's take the body of his work and give him a break on the year he had a lacerated kidney. Cam's in his 6th year. So let's take away last year, that great year when they faced the easiest schedule in the league. You do realize what you get. Andrew Luck, with 2 offensive Pro Bowlers in his career, Cam's got 3.5 times more. Andrew Luck has a 2-to-1 win-to-loss ratio. Cam's sub 500. Andrew Luck, and that's, remember, Cam with better players. Andrew Luck has 110 touchdowns, 50 interceptions, 2-to-1, over 2-to-1. Cam's 96-62, under 2-to-1. Andrew Luck's got 40 more passing yards a game, higher passer rating, and he's not concerned about fashion. Cam's concerned about a lot of non-football stuff. Andrew Luck is also, according to the stats, improving every year. His completion percentage has gone up every year. Cam's is regressing, a career low this year. By the way, Andrew Luck also had to replace Peyton Manning. I don't know. Little pressure. They got rid of Peyton Manning, who saved football in Indy, and Andrew Luck had to walk in and replace him. That's like following Jerry Seinfeld on stage. That's like following Adele at a concert. Cam replaced Jimmy Clausen. Boy, those are mighty shoes to fill. Andrew Luck is in a different class than Cam Newton, and we pick him apart. Cam Newton is interested in so many things that aren't connected to football, I've lost count. Andrew wants to be a football player. Cam wants to be a star. I get it. It's America. Pays a lot of money. But if you look, Andrew Luck has never had an elite head coach, an elite offensive line, an elite GM, an elite defense, an elite running game. 55 straight games, Andrew Luck didn't have a 100-yard rusher. Cam last year, 16 for 16 games, had a 100-yard rusher. Who's played with better? Cam. Who's more consistent? Luck. Who's had a better coach? Cam. Who's had a better defense? Cam. Who's more consistent? Luck. Whose numbers going up? Luck. Who's are regressing? Cam. But we've decided we like Cam, and we've decided we don't like Andrew Luck. What you watched last night, they should put that thing away for future generations to watch. Threw from the pocket, running, through left, through right, through accurately, through over the top, through underneath. But we've decided we just don't like him. Well, he hasn't done anything. That's what you were saying about LeBron before the first title. He hadn't done anything yet. That's what you were saying about Tiger before he won the first U.S. Open and Masters. If you watch football and you get football, here's what you need to know about Andrew Luck. He's consistent, and he likes the right stuff. He likes the right stuff. He's got a book club online. Sharing books with kids, community, family. Why did I fall in love with Russell Wilson? Children's hospitals. Why was I turned off by Cap? Look at my cars, hats, and shoes. I like guys who are consistent, and I like guys who like the right stuff. If you don't like Andrew Luck, that's a you problem. So I saw something else last night that really jumped out to me. That Let's go back to what I just said. I like people who care about the right stuff. I thought there was a very interesting moment in the NBA last night. Klay Thompson erupted for 60 points for the Warriors. But the Warriors' culture is we care about the right stuff. And they sat him in the fourth because the game was out of hand and didn't matter. It didn't matter. Russell Westbrook had his 6th consecutive triple-double, and we know that means a lot to him. He's going to go grab that stat sheet. He's going to stay in and get that thing. Russell Westbrook is 1994 basketball. He's Michael Jordan in the mid-'80s. Will, the Tiger, determination, sheer force. He's number 1 in the pager business. The Warriors are the iPhone 7. Sharing, high efficiency, passing, easier, averaging 8 more assists per game than any other team in the league. 10 more than you-know-who. Russell Westbrook is a 1988 force of nature. He's the Tiger, sheer determination. I'll burrow through a wall. Give me a battleship. I'll put my head down and burrow through it. Good luck in the playoffs. You're going to be worn out. Klay Thompson scored 60 last night and dribbled the ball 11 times. Think about that. 11 times. That's what it's like when you play with smart guys who care about the right stuff. Finding the open man. But Colin, Westbrook doesn't play with great players. Brah, he did, and he left town to play with guys who have an iPhone 7, not who want to be number 1 in the 1994 pager business. Russell Westbrook is playing mid-'90s, late 80s hoops. Number stats. They had a great player, and the great player said, I don't care about points, man. I want to show up to the arena, have fun, share, spread the ball out. Klay Thompson had 60 points. He dribbled the ball 11 times. That's 1 possession for Westbrook. Work smarter, not harder. There was a play last night in that Warrior game. Watch this play. This is why Kevin Durant left. This play. Watch it happen.
And a tip ball by the Warriors. Draymond Green to Curry. Lob back to Red, who dumped it down. He dumped it down. Curry caught it in the air and threw it back, and Durant slammed it. Drop the mic. Go home.
Remember when LeBron and D-Wade and Bosh played together that first year? Do you remember that year? Go back to that year before the title. They were doing that stuff. That's why guys like playing at the Olympics, because great players get the bigger picture. Great players get, we watched the Globetrotters as kids. This is what NBA guys do at practice. They screw around sometimes and do the alley-oop stuff. The guys who get it in the NBA, they don't care about stats. They want to win games. They want to have fun. They want to get easier shots. When you watched the Warriors last night, it spoke volumes that they didn't play Klay in the fourth. Of course they didn't. Why? They're not chasing stats. They're not there to humiliate people, build their wardrobe up, their catalog up. Here's Steve Kerr after the game. Why didn't you play Klay?
It's significant for the individual, you know. It doesn't matter to me, like, what number it is, but it matters to Klay. It matters to every player who's playing. There are individual milestones that are important to players, and I respect that as long as it's within the context of the game, which is why he didn't play in the last part of the game, fourth quarter.
Did you notice how Steve Kerr used his hands a lot and was almost nervous? Did you watch? Steve Kerr's the smartest guy I've ever covered. And yet there he kind of stumbled around. Why? Because Steve Kerr didn't give a rip about that, but he wanted to protect his player and say, it's very important. In the context of that moment, there is no reason to play Klay Thompson. It would be selfish. It would be individual. And these guys have created a culture where, did you see how happy KD and Steph were for Klay? Did you watch how happy they were for him? Mm-hmm. That's how you play basketball. It's not the Kobe. It's not the Melo. It's not the Harden. It's not the Westbrook. That's how you play the game in 2016. That's the iPhone 7. You can stay in the pager business. So great. So remarkable.
I can't wait to go at it with you on this.
So great. Not that they should be sizing their rings, but it is working perfectly for Durant. Like, he's having more fun than he thought he would ever have. He's having so much fun.
Wait, now the Warriors are going to win? I thought the Cavs
they're going to get to
win.
the finals.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So just finals appearance rings.
Yeah.
Not championship
LeBron's
rings.
the best player in the history of, ever, but so much fun. But, look, Westbrook will probably set a bunch of records. Slam Magazine's probably got a 13-page article on him next month. Maybe 15. Give me even more pages. Slam Magazine. It'll be glossy.
What did Slam Magazine do to you?
Peter King's around the corner. No matter how you get ready for kickoff, choose Visa and Bank Americard Cash Rewards. Visa Credit Card. It lets you earn cash back on all your game day essentials. Visa, everywhere you want to be. There's a story today that the New York Jets, I'm reading the New York papers, and they're trying to get Todd Bowles fired as head coach. That is ridiculous. 3 years with absolutely atrocious quarterbacks. He inherits virtually nothing at the position. Be very careful, Jets, about who you hire and fire, because you're going to limit yourself on the next coach. What you're saying is basically, we're going to give a guy 3 years in a division with Tom Brady. We're going to give you 3 years, and if your quarterback plays atrocious, that's your fault. Say what you want about Jerry Jones, but he has stuck through Jason Garrett multiple times. He even gave Chan Gailey 3 years. Jerry sends a signal to the league, I'll give you an extra year. Stan Kroenke, for all his critics, is sending a message to every coach. I'm sticking with Jeff Fisher another 2 years. Now, Ram fans don't want to hear that. But the message to viable coaching candidates is, we're not going to bail on you. This is what the Mara family did with Tom Coughlin. The Jets keep running through coaches, sending a signal, hey, you move your family and your daughters here to go to school, we'll give you 3 years. You don't win games against Brady, you're out. Be very careful the message you send when you fire people. Todd Bowles, who's winning games? Bill Belichick couldn't win games in Cleveland. Why? Didn't have the right quarterback. Bill Belichick was 5-13 his first year and few games in New England before Brady. You can't win in this league with that quarterback play. You can't win in this league with that quarterback play. All right, via the Cowherd Global Satellite Network. Peter King, editor, Monday Morning Quarterback. Do you think it's serious the Jets would already bail on Todd Bowles, or is that tabloid fodder?
I think that mid-season of this year, there was no intention whatsoever, to bail on Todd Bowles. And Colin, I think I've told you this stat before, but since Bill Belichick took over in New England, the other 3 teams in the AFC East have averaged 7.3 coaches per team.
Wow.
So do you want to make that 23 coaching changes in just over 15 years? Is that what you want? Well, if they fire Todd Bowles, they're taking a step backward. I think you need to look at some of the players on this team. And last night, to me, I was shocked. I heard part of the game on the radio last night, and Boomer Esiason on Westwood One, he said flat out in the fourth quarter, I don't say this lightly, these players have quit on their coach.
Oh, it looked like that, Peter. It's funny, Peter, you're in the Bay Area. It looks like Sausalito behind you, one of my favorite places I've ever been to in America. It's absolutely stunning. And you got 2 different stories there. You have the tumbling Niners and the elevated play of the Raiders. I want you, if you can, it's funny. We all know that Andy Reid can coach, and we all know Belichick, and we know the guys who have struggled. I've always thought we can't quite get our arms around Jack Del Rio, who, by the way, they haven't done anything in Jacksonville since he left. He was tremendous as an assistant in Denver. Now, all of a sudden, Oakland's winning. How do you categorize Del Rio? Because I never hear him mentioned among the good coaches.
Well, I can tell you this. When Peyton Manning got to Denver, he sat in a room with Mike McCoy and Jack Del Rio. And he said to both of them, he goes, listen, I just want to make sure if we get good and we really play well, you guys aren't going to leave. And so they both said what you think they would say. Oh, yeah, I'm not going to leave. But there aren't many places that Jack Del Rio would want to be a head coach, there versus being a defensive coordinator where Peyton Manning is going to have you deep in the playoffs every year. But Oakland is one of them. He's a Hayward boy. Was a huge Raider fan growing up.
Yep.
just a half hour away from the Raiders facility. This has been his dream job, no matter how dysfunctional a family it was. 13 consecutive non-winning seasons. He doesn't care. I was in his office in training camp this year, and he's got a picture of the disheveled John Madden on his wall because he loves the Raiders. And his message to his team has basically been very, very simple. Forget all the playoff talk. Forget everything else. If you don't think about this week, no matter who we're playing, whether we're playing the Cleveland Browns or the New England Patriots, it doesn't matter. This is the week that is the biggest game of the year, and that is rubbed off. I talked to David Carr about it. That is totally rubbed off on his team.
Peter King joining us, editor, MMQB. So all these, I don't know if it was a late 90s, just Aikman left, Steve Young left, and the quarterbacks left, and we waited for the next batch, and there was a couple of years we waited for the young guys. Well, we went into this season saying, oh, my God, Peyton Manning's leaving, Favre just retired. Well, now I'm watching Jameis Winston, and oh, boy, does he look really good, and Derek Carr's good, and Dak Prescott's poise is remarkable, Russell Wilson, Andrew Luck. And I'm watching all these, Marcus Mariota's terrific.
Yeah.
And I'm watching Cam. And it makes me look at Cam differently. And because
it looks like Cam's regressing? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Peter, 44% completion, 5%. I mean, it's not even one game.
You know what is odd about Cam Newton? I don't know if you noticed this. And I think this is because he's basically having to bail so often because of his offensive line. Khalil is a huge injury on that offensive line. And obviously no Michael Oher. But what I'm saying is that I think Cam Newton, if you look at his mechanics,
oh, good Lord,
look at how he's throwing way on his back foot so often. Those are not positive, good body mechanics for a quarterback. So to me, I think that's part of it. The larger issue, in my opinion, is that, I just think this. I think what Ron Rivera did was the right thing. You can rail about what kind of rule this is and what a dumb rule that is. But if it is a rule, and you got 52 guys getting on a plane in San Jose for Seattle who have ties on, and one doesn't have a tie on, what are you going to do? You can look the other way, and 52 guys are saying, oh, I see. There's a different rule for the quarterback, the star quarterback, than there is for us.
Yeah, Peter King joining us. We talk about Coach of the Year, and generally it's a guy who's winning a bunch of games. But I got to tell you something. I've watched Tannehill for years and not been impressed. I think what they've done in Miami, when the offensive line is healthy, this is a scary team that destroyed Pittsburgh. I think Adam Gase deserves mentions. Will he get any?
He should. I think you're absolutely right. He has turned around the culture in the building with that team. He's got the defense playing harder than it did last year, even though they got totally wiped out. Baltimore really is kryptonite for everything that Miami is not very good at. But I'll just say, I think there's some great candidates this year. If I had to give one right now, I'd give it to Belichick, just because every week in the offseason, is Brady playing, is he not? Is it, he got Jimmy Garoppolo and then Jacoby Brissett ready, along with Josh McDaniels, to play competent to winning football in place of Brady. Then Brady comes back, he's playing at his best. He makes all of these moves with new players again, new puzzle pieces. Chris Hogan, for crying out loud, taken from Buffalo. So I just think Belichick figures out, both as a coach and a franchise architect, how to win every year, no matter whether he's got the biggest controversy in recent NFL history involving Brady. I'd give it to him, but I totally understand Andy Reid, Jason Garrett, Jack Del Rio, Adam Gase, Jim Caldwell has done a fantastic job. So there's a lot of good candidates for that job.
I said before you came on the air, Peter King joining us, that when you fire people for any company, it will play optically, it will land very different for different people. And the Giants, the Mara family, stuck with Tom Coughlin. And even when he left, there was an elegance to it. So I look at some of these organizations that want to get rid of people, and I look around and I look at the Jets and I look at other people. Could I make the argument that Stan Kroenke is simply sending a message to the great young coaches? Look at what I'll give you even in duress. And that's what he's really doing here, the macro play.
Well, I think there's two reasons why, and I think that's a really interesting theory. And I think there might be something to it. I've never thought of it before, but it's smart. I don't know that has anything to do with why Stan Kroenke has made the decision to hang on to Fisher and to extend him for one guaranteed year in 2017. But I'll just make 2 points. I think at the end of last year, the Rams thought they were really close. And then they moved to play in 3 different places, practice, and have homes in 3 different places in the 2017 season in California. And I think they just figured, look, if we're showing some signs of progress on offense, whatever our record is, we're going to give Fisher one more year to see if he can turn it around. And I think that's where they are right now. Now, if they lose their last 4, in my opinion, Fisher goes, he gets paid off, he gets a great golden parachute of whatever, $7 million from Stan Kroenke, and then they go out and seek the next coach. But I think even as it stands now, you would think, well, geez, 5th consecutive non-winning year, they got to fire him. They definitely have not come to that conclusion yet.
All right, Peter King, Monday Morning quarterback, editor-in-chief. Now, you're in the Bay Area. You're not going to be there for a Chip Kelly's leaving to Oregon press conference. Why are you there?
No, I'm here. I did a story for Thursday Night Football on NBC that's simulcast by NFL Network on David Carr. I think it's going to be really interesting. It'll show you some fun sides of David Carr that maybe you didn't know. And to my feeling is, Colin, just over the last 4 or 5 weeks, I think we're looking at, he's only 25 years old, but I think we're looking at one of the next major faces of the NFL.
Yep.
And a pretty perfect guy, in terms of off the field, and you never have to worry about him. And a guy, he wants that mantle. He wants to feel like, hey, follow me, and I'm never going to let you down. And, hey, tell your kids they can buy my jersey, and they're never going to be disappointed.
No, he is a remarkable guy. I said a month ago I thought he should be the MVP of the league. He hasn't disappointed. They're the most fun team to watch on Sunday.
Most explosive team, and you're right, the most fun team.
Good TV product. Peter King, MMQB editor-in-chief. Always a pleasure, Peter. Thank you.
Thank you, Colin.
He is on the Raider bandwagon too, baby. The Raiders. Los Angeles got the Rams and now the Chargers. What they need is the Raiders. We got the Rams. Here's Christine with the news.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
The Cowboys have a playoff spot locked up. They'll probably get home field advantage, a bye as well. So Jerry Jones is starting to get asked whether he will rest some of the players.
I see us more as business as usual. You don't want to take the edge off. A football game is a part of a personality of the team, and you want that team to stay very physical as you enter these playoffs.
Who would have thought, going into this season, the Cowboys' biggest dilemma was, should we rest guys because we've got the division all wrapped up by December 10th?
Jerry Jones actually made a lot of sense there, too. Do you agree with him?
Well, he's a smart guy. We love to pick on the Donald Trumps and the Jerry Jones. Donald Trump's part of 500 businesses. He's no dummy. Jerry Jones is worth $20 billion. I know every sports writer thinks they're smarter than him.
Right.
But it's like when you get to the Trump, you're not successful for 50 years at the highest levels of business and don't know what you're doing.
Yeah,
you can be flawed and vanity-driven and ego-laced and all that stuff. They're not dummies. He knows what he's doing.
And he also plays up his character a little bit.
Yeah, I think so. I think they both do.
Speaking of resting players, Steve Kerr said that it really didn't make sense to play Klay Thompson in the fourth quarter last night because that was about individual stats. But Klay Thompson says he wishes that he played in the fourth quarter because he could have gotten to 80.
Klay, be honest, did you ask Steve to play in the fourth?
I didn't, but it's just unfortunate. 2 times I got my career high, I didn't even get to play the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
We should keep these games closer next time.
You know what? There actually is a reason to play him in the fourth quarter, and I love Steve Kerr. I usually agree with him on everything. Who had the biggest slump? Who was being affected most in the beginning of the season with the addition of Kevin Durant?
Klay.
And when he's in a slump, he stays in a slump. So now he's hot. He's feeling some confidence. He has a chance to show what he can do and get on a good roll. And then they pull him in the fourth quarter.
Oh, yeah, because he
And
only
I
had
understand-
60.
No, but he could have gotten 80.
Who
and
cares?
Getting to 80 is an immortal thing. We always talk about Kobe Bryant, his 81 points.
I have never talked
about Klay Thompson.
never talk about Kobe's 81.
Well, some people do.
Yeah, some people who care about stats do.
And maybe this is a chance for Klay to feel he's hot. Let him feel that. Let him build some confidence.
What about good sportsmanship? And when you win by 30...
I'm so glad you went there. Good sportsmanship. Are we playing in Little League where you have to have a mercy rule?
I think in the NBA, in a long season, don't taunt.
Because you're going to get it paid back to you?
Yeah.
You're professional athletes. If you can't handle being beat by 30 points,
that's
you have a
like
problem.
saying... You're married to your husband. You can't take a joke about you look heavy in that dress. I mean, how do you take it personally?
No, that is not a comparison.
Am I right on that?
Yes, but that has nothing to do with this.
Well, you would take it personally, even though you know he loves you. So you do.
That
everybody.
Nothing.
Everybody takes stuff
NBA
personally.
teams don't love each other. And they're supposed to hate each other.
You know how people always say, "Hey, man, it's just business. Don't take it personally." Everything is personal. You can't not take it personally.
So you're telling me that a team that's down by 30...
Don't rub it in their face.
They're okay moping around?
No, don't rub it in their face. Don't in pro sports...
Right, because the next time you play them, you'll beat them by 30
I just don't think in Little League
They're not good.
Don't rub it in people's faces. If you win as a president, you call the other person and say, congratulations on a hard-fought... You don't whine and complain about it.
Do you think all kids should get trophies for everything, too?
No, but if you do beat them, if you do beat kids, don't be the Little League coach. If you're ahead 11-0, get out of the game, be happy. There's no reason to humiliate people.
Well, the rest of the Warriors were happy for Klay Thompson, and I bet they would have liked to see him play in the fourth quarter as well, considering that he had such a slow start to the season. I mean, he was the guy that was most affected by it. So Steph Curry actually went to Klay Thompson and asked him to autograph the stat sheet for him.
I love that. It's very nice.
It's very nice. And now I cannot wait for this. You started the show by saying you like guys with consistency and who are into the right things, right?
The right things.
Okay. How can you get more consistent than averaging a triple-double on the season and 6 straight triple-doubles? Is that not consistency?
Leads the league in turnovers by far.
Okay, so he's consistent
turning the
in
ball
that
over.
As well.
He's a
but
consistent
seriously,
ball
averaging
hog.
a triple-double, okay? Yeah. You also said you like guys who are into the right things, and you specifically named Andrew Luck because he works with has a children's books or he does something with a book club.
He's got a neat book club, neat.
Do you know what Russell Westbrook's foundation is?
Let me guess about how many points he scored last night.
Helping children with their literacy.
That's very nice.
Do you know who won the NBA Cares Award in 2015?
Oh, that's so nice.
Russell Westbrook.
Maybe if he cared more about getting the ball to his teammates, he wouldn't have lost KD.
Do you know what you need to have a triple-double?
What?
At least 10 assists.
Well, when you have the ball in your hands for 4 hours, that's pretty easy to get.
Here's the thing. You think that Kevin Durant is so great because now he's on this team. And I agree with you. He made the right decision. He should move, be able to do whatever he wants to do. But then you're killing the guy who stayed with his team. He has to carry them. There's no one left.
That's right, because he scared off the one guy who was great.
No, they both liked each other off the court. They didn't like each other on the court.
I would much
but
rather,
that's a mutual thing.
I would much rather have guys who hate each other off the court but love each other on the court.
That works too, but not every relationship is the same.
Well, make it happen.
Make what happen?
That's what LeBron does, makes them all work.
No, some people you just don't play with.
Christine with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Lie News.
So here's an interesting story. Lane Kiffin is up for the Houston job. And basically, if Lane Kiffin wants the Houston job, he can have the Houston job. But Houston's got a problem. Houston's upset that Kevin Sumlin, Art Briles, and Tom Herman basically went to Houston, won a bunch of games, left, and got better jobs. And what the University of Houston is saying is, we are not a second-tier gig. Well, you absolutely are, and that's okay. Realize what you are and celebrate it. Not everybody is a supermodel. Understand that there are only a handful of, real big-time gigs. You have to remember this. In college football, even the best college football is not as good as an NFL job. If Nick Saban was 45 and winning like this, he'd go to the NFL. Pete Carroll was at the top of the mountain USC. He went to the NFL to the lousy Seahawks. They were lousy when he got there. All college jobs are stepping stone jobs. You don't think Jim Harbaugh in 3 years, if Chuck Pagano got fired and he won a national title at Michigan, wouldn't go to Andrew Luck and try to win a Super Bowl? He'd be dumb not to. So all college jobs to a degree are stepping stone jobs. There are some that it's harder to leave. It's harder to leave Ohio State, Michigan, or Alabama, or LSU. But you got to remember, this is a great example. The University of Houston, at their peak right now, is averaging 39 a game in a city with 7 million people. Nobody cares. Like, it's okay. I worked in local TV for years. And there are certain markets like Fresno or Palm Springs that they're stepping stone markets. Now, occasionally people will stay, but the really young, talented people generally see Fresno and Palm Springs as a place they go, and then they take off a couple years later when they get their resume tape. So should Fresno and Palm Springs hire less talented people or celebrate that they foster these great careers? You got to be comfortable, Houston, with what you are. You're a second-tier program, and you are a stepping stone program. Embrace that. You create great careers, but nobody's going to stay there. And by the way, the kind of guy that would stay there isn't the kind of guy like Tom Herman that would win a bunch of games or Kevin Sumlin. Smart, driven, talented people generally, though not always, seek higher ground. They want to be challenged. I mean, look at the conference Houston plays in. It's all the victims of conference realignment. It doesn't even make sense. University of South Florida, Temple, Cincinnati, Navy, Houston, Memphis, Connecticut. I mean, their headquarters, I'm not joking, is in Providence, Rhode Island. It makes no sense. It is just the wayward sons of college football. Like, it's just the victims of conference realignment. Somebody wanted Rutgers. The Big Ten said, we'll take Rutgers. What about this conference? We're not interested. Somebody chose Rutgers over all these schools. So just be happy with what you are. Not everybody's a supermodel. Embrace it. You're a stepping stone job, and that's okay. And the kind of guys that will continue to make Houston fun to watch are the kind of guys that are going to leave you. I mean, you think you should go out now and embrace second-tier coaches? This guy won't leave me. That's like the ultimate insecure thing. You marry somebody because he won't leave me.
No.
I know he won't leave me. Seek higher ground. Do the best you can.
Oh, no.
I mean, seriously.
Do the best
Do you think
can.
I married my wife because she won't leave me?
Well, there has to be a part of you that feels that way.
Well, yeah, hopefully she's not fooling around with a mailman when I'm at work.
No, you want to feel secure.
Well, I mean, to be secure enough in yourself to be,
No, but you got to be secure in your partner as well.
Are you dating people that you think will stay with you? Come on.
I wouldn't date someone that I think is going to cheat on me.
Well, that's different than my first question.
No, it's not. It's exactly the same question.
You wouldn't date a dog.
No, if I felt like the person I'm with
was a dog
could cheat on me,
well,
I wouldn't be with them.
Well, he's a guy. Of course he could cheat.
Excuse me?
He's a guy.
What does that mean?
You can figure it out.
All men cheat? Are you trying to say that?
Can we move to a story about football? Can we talk Pac-12?
You brought this up, not me.
All right.
So, well, then the football world should be really scared because
it's like University of Houston. You're a second-tier gig. It's okay. It's fine. That's what you are. You're not Alabama. And even Alabama would lose Saban if he was 45 and doing this. He'd go to the NFL. It's okay. NFL jobs you don't leave. If you win in Jacksonville, you mostly stay in Jacksonville. The NFL doesn't like their coaches taking other jobs. It's kind of an unsaid rule in the NFL. You don't bounce around job to job. You don't do that. So if you get a job in Denver, you stay. If you get a job with the Giants, you stay. But if you get a job in Indianapolis, you stay. You don't bounce around in the NFL. You get a job in Cleveland and you won a bunch of games. Belichick would have stayed in Cleveland if they won. He wouldn't have left Cleveland. He doesn't care about the weather. He's in the film room all day. But you leave college jobs. Coming up next, it is actually great for the sport, but one city is going to have their feelings hurt. That's next. The Herd brought to you by TrueCar. If you're ready to buy a new one, download the TrueCar app. Configure the new car you want. See what others paid for it. Save time and money. Download the TrueCar app today. Bryce Harper, Washington Nationals, seeking $400 million, will likely leave the Washington Nationals after next year. The window in D.C. is closing, and that's not good news. The Nats have never gotten past the first round, despite Bryce Harper, Steven Strasburg, Jason Worth, Max Scherzer, Gio Gonzalez, Daniel Murphy. They have spent a bloody fortune, and they can't get past the first round. Now, I think they're really fun to watch. They are really fun to watch. But I got to tell you, there's about 10 teams, in my opinion, that control the sports landscape. And, you'd think, the New England Patriots. They're not one of them. New England's been dominant for 15 years. They still don't break TV records. What about Alabama football? They've been dominant for a decade now. They don't break records. Last year's final was a disappointing rating. What about the Red Sox? The Red Sox aren't in it either. They've gotten increasingly less interesting with every preceding World Series title. The 10 teams that change the sports landscape are number one, the Dallas Cowboys. They're right now carrying the NFL ratings. The Lakers, the Yankees, Ohio State football, Notre Dame football, Duke basketball, the Celtics, the Packers, the Steelers. And out of respect for what they just accomplished, I would put the Cubs. But remember this. If I'd have done this list a year ago, you wouldn't have put the Cubs in because they've never been in the playoffs and mattered in the last 100 years until this year. But they did change the sports landscape this year, so the Cubs are in. But much like the Red Sox, if let's say they won the next 4 World Series titles, the numbers wouldn't be as historic as this year's. The Red Sox World Series titles each year, it's gone down 15%. The Yankees are like the Celtics, the Lakers, the Steelers, the Cowboys, Ohio State football. Every network executive is dying to get them in finals. Don't kid yourself. Alabama's number 1 in the ratings right now for college football, and Washington's 4. Do you know why? Because the committee wants Ohio State in the final. That's what they're hoping for. So that's why bowl games put in Notre Dame when they don't qualify. It's why Notre Dame's bowl record's so bad, because they get into bowls they don't deserve. They get it against teams they really shouldn't be playing. So there's a very few teams, and I got nothing against the Washington Nationals because I think they're really fun to watch. But the New York Yankees have been rebuilding here for about 3 years, and they got a guy named Gary Sanchez, and now they're dumping all the money, and they have a lot of cash to spend with the Yankees. And frankly, they've not only been average, but they've been kind of uninteresting for the last several years. I mean, the big story for the Yankees the last 5 years is, ooh, this old guy's retiring. Oh, it's Mariano. Oh, it's A-Rod. Oh, it's Jeter. Oh, they're old and boring. So Bryce Harper would not only be a great bat for them in that short right field porch, oh my God, he is going to jack a ton out. But he would make him really dynamic. And the Yankees have not been dynamic. I mean, Jacoby Ellsbury's always hurt. So, I mean, like, Harper is not only a great player, he is perfect for New York. Big, the hair, the muscles, the energy, the charisma. The home runs on the right field porch, it would be so great for the sport. Sports never want to admit stuff, but don't kid yourself. I mean, the NBA, Adam Silver, would love to see the Knicks get better, the Lakers get better, and the Warriors and LeBron show up in the finals. They're not going to tell you that, but that's what they want. ESPN's not going to tell you this. They would like to get Ohio State in the final. They don't want Alabama and Clemson again. They don't. They don't want it. They could live with Seattle because if Washington gets in and beat Alabama and Ohio State, you get an entire West Coast Conference and Ohio State. They don't want Alabama, Clemson. They don't. It's not what they want. So there you go, Bryce Harper, who I met, and I met his father at the All-Star game. Awesome. What an awesome dad.
What made him so awesome?
I don't know, just like a regular dude. He was just a really supportive. He wasn't like a clingy dad. He was like a supportive, cool, great looking guy. For smaller, kind of ripped, kept in shape, just like a regular dude. I liked him.
Regular dudes.
Well, you know, a lot of times, like in sports, there's the clingy dad.
Yeah.
Like, it's such a turnoff.
Right.
You see a lot of that in high school football with
like
the quarterback.
living their lives through their son.
Like the great high school quarterbacks, the dad's always way too clingy. Mm-hmm. Bryce Harper's dad was like really supportive, really fun, let his son be his own guy, but love him, support him. I like guys like that. So, all right. I'm so excited. I saw something out of Vegas, and I think if you believe in wagering, there might be a pretty interesting bet out there for you, because I think they're making a mistake on something, and I think it affects every football fan in America. Hour 2 coming up with Christine in Los Angeles. It's The Herd. This is The Herd, wherever you may be and however you may be listening, live in Los Angeles on iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, and FS1. Christine Leahy is joining me. Christine Leahy, who believes in rubbing it in.
Excuse me?
And when you lead by 30, you should keep stars in and rub it in. It should be noted last year, who rubbed it in the NFL? Who rubbed it in people's faces last year in the NFL? Cam Newton. Dab, 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 dab.
You think that was rubbing it in?
Yeah, I do.
No, that was about him enjoying his success.
It was like, look, celebrate in your face, losing NFL team. How's it working out for him?
So the NBA now is Little League?
No, I do not believe in taunting.
How is being your best taunting?
Dabba-rooney, dabby, dabby, dabby.
I didn't say Klay Thompson dabbing.
That's because the coach pulled him from the game.
So he was going to dab if you left him in the fourth quarter?
He would be up 30. You wouldn't taunt. Years ago, here's a little story.
Mm-hmm.
Years ago, Kobe had 69 against the Mavericks. And Phil Jackson asked him, do you want to go in? And Kobe said, no. Mm-hmm. I'll get it on another night because the Lakers were destroying the Cavs. That, my friends, is what legends do. Now, when Kobe scored 81 against Toronto, people say, oh, it was an 18-point game. Go look at what it was 10 minutes to go. Don't rub stuff in people's faces. That's not what you do. It's not good sportsmanship.
It's not rubbing it in
their face. By the way,
face.
You're going to have little adorable children someday, and they're going to play soccer.
Okay.
And when your son is losing, you're going to be the funniest mom. Your little Tommy is going to be losing 5-0, and you're going to start to feel really insecure about your son losing. And the other coach is like, keep the starters in. It's 10-0, 15-0. And then your son's crying, 20-0, 30-0. And you're getting furious. You don't rub it in.
Do you know what the difference is?
What?
That kid's like 9. These are grown men who are getting paid millions of dollars.
23-year-old kids, children.
Who are getting paid millions of dollars.
Just because you're getting paid millions, your ego may be even more sensitive.
If you don't want to get beat that bad, play better.
All right, so I got to tell you this because I teased it. RJ Bell, pregame.com, at RJ in Vegas, came out with a Super Bowl odds today. Let me tell you something. I think we're giving New England way too much respect. New England is 3-1 odds to win the Super Bowl. They're the favorite to win the Super Bowl. And by the way, Baltimore, which does a ton well, is 43-1. Baltimore's 43-1 and gave Dallas a real fight. Rushed for over 100 yards, had 12 penalties, but that was a real game entering the fourth, midway through the fourth. New England's pass rush is average. They're going to have under 5 Pro Bowlers. They have no vertical passing threat. They're 21st in takeaways. Their turnover margin's +5. Meh. They have no Gronk. And what they've always done well is they don't fumble. They fumbled 21 times this year. Thank God they've recovered all but 7. And their kicking hasn't been great this year. Steven Groskowski's having his worst year ever. So it's like nothing against Vegas, but the fact that New England is the favorite to win the Super Bowl at 3-1, Baltimore's 43-1, and I would probably take New England over Baltimore because they'll play in Foxborough, but it would be inches. Baltimore does a lot exceptionally. Their kicker, the best in football. Their rushing defense, the best in football. I mean, Baltimore owns some space. What does New England do well? Seriously, what do they do well? Dallas owns some space, road graders. Baltimore owns some space. You tell me what New England does well. And with that, we go to the Herd Hierarchy, my top 10 teams of the week since Monday Night Football is completed. Here we go.
Herd Hierarchy.
Time is now. Let's go.
The top 10 NFL teams according to Colin. Number 10.
Detroit's won 7 of 8, and they have 100% scoring efficiency in the red zone. Nobody in the NFL other than the Detroit Lions has been that good. Listen, Matt Stafford has always been a world-class talent. He was the best high school quarterback in the country. He was the best college quarterback when he came out in the country. But he was saddled with a chaotic front office and bad ownership. Now when he gets reasonable coaching, he's a monster. Look at his numbers in the last 16 games. They're better than Aaron Rodgers. Lions at 10.
Number 9.
You know, I just, out of respect for John Elway and the Denver Broncos front office and Gary Kubiak and that defense, I put him in here. They still lead the league in sacks. They still have the NFL's best pass defense, and they have more interceptions than touchdown passes allowed, 12-10. So I put them in. I don't think they're a team that could win a playoff game right now, though.
Number 8.
Green Bay Packers, believe it or not. Listen, judge a team by how they're playing now. Over the last 7 games, Aaron Rodgers is hot. 19 touchdowns, 3 picks. Over the last month and a half, Jordy Nelson has a touchdown in 5 of 6 games. It always takes them a little longer to get going, but right now, I don't think you'd want to go to Lambeau in that snow and play the Green Bay Packers. I have them at 8.
Number 7.
Thought about putting this team higher, and they probably will be with one more week. Did you see what they did to Miami? Baltimore at 7. Oh, my God. They've won 4 of 5, the lone loss being to Dallas in Dallas, and that was a good game. In the last 5 games, again, what are they doing now like Green Bay? Joe Flacco is completing 69.8% of his throws, and you can't run the football on him. So Green Bay and Baltimore start slow. Right now, you don't want to play them.
Number 6.
Pittsburgh Steelers, we had a feeling they would get hot in the second half. I don't love them yet because they're still too inconsistent. But their second half schedule is easier. They're 11-1 in their last 12 December games. Le'Veon Bell has 100-plus scrimmage yards in 8 of his 9 games this year. If Le'Veon Bell is healthy, they can control the clock. That helps out a very average defense, Steelers 6.
Number 5.
You know who's a great player in this league? Travis Kelce, Kansas City Chiefs tight end. After Gronk, maybe the best tight end in football. Like, he's a nightmare matchup. They don't turn the ball over. They have the most takeaways in the league, so they take it from you and they don't give it back. They're 7-1 in their last 8. And in my opinion, they have the second-best coach in the league in Andy Reid. And Eric Berry is one of the top 5 players in the league at safety. Chiefs at 5.
Number 4.
I got the New England Patriots. And I'm not kidding you. I could flip the Baltimore Ravens and the Patriots and be comfortable with it. Listen, Tom Brady leads the league in passer rating, and they're unbelievable in the first quarter. They've outscored opponents by 65 points in the first quarter, best in the league. So they lead every game. That's a big advantage. They can run the football and play action. They play a different defense when they have a lead, and they don't turn it over much. Only 2 in the last 5 games, turnovers. But, man, tell me where their dynamic players are.
Number 3.
Seattle Seahawks, best scoring defense. 4 straight games, they forced multiple turnovers. Unbeaten at home. I'm putting this on. I like their defense. I like Pete Carroll. I like him at home. I think Russell Wilson's inconsistent but dynamic. I'm putting the Seahawks at 3.
Number 2.
Are we going to start believing in the Raiders now? Like when they don't play well, they blow people out? 6 straight wins. You can't get to Derek Carr. They've allowed 13 sacks this year. You can't get to him. That's the fewest in the league. And now their defense in 4 straight games has forced multiple turnovers. And they're scoring 29 points a game, which is the most in the AFC. And by the way, the first half of the season, they were on the road. They were on the East Coast the first half of the season, of which they never lost a game. When are we going to start figuring out here? We're seeing something special. This is like this Green Bay team that Aaron Rodgers won a Super Bowl with. And everybody kind of fell asleep on until like week 11, 12, 13. You're like, oh, Green Bay's really good. Folks, Raiders number 2, they're really good.
Number 1.
Dallas Cowboys, 11 straight wins. They run the football. They pass the football. Dak Prescott, 5 games, no picks. They've won their last 4 by 10 or less, and people are saying, whoa, what does that mean? What it means is it's the NFL post-Thanksgiving. It's not easy to win games. They have not lost a road game that Dak and Tony Romo have started in 3 years. What does that mean? They travel well. Why do they travel well? Because their offensive line dominates the game, dominates the clock, dominates the tempo. Dallas Cowboys, best team in the league. You may be noticing I didn't put in those frauds, the New York Giants. And you may be noticing I struggled with Atlanta all year, and the minute they lost, I bumped them out. I bumped them out. I've been waiting to bump out Atlanta for like a month. I just don't buy them. Didn't buy the Giants. They were ridiculous. And I don't buy Atlanta. We'll see what Joe Buck says to that. Joe Buck's got a book out. It's got a swear word in it. I'm writing the title. I can't even say the word on TV.
In the title?
Yeah, the title. It's got a bad word.
Oh, yes, he does. Oh, well, that's not a swear word. It's like a...
It's a word that's...
It's a word that isn't nice.
Yeah. You can say it in a book. Yeah, I don't... He could say it. I don't care.
It's not like one of the 4-letter traditional words.
No. Have you read any of the book? Oh, boy.
I've read some excerpts. Yeah, I'm excited about reading it.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
He talks about all sorts of stuff.
Uh-huh.
He had an amazing life.
Yeah, I like him a lot. We spent a lot of time with him at the All-Star game.
Yeah, he's just a regular dude. Uh-huh. He's actually very, very funny. All right, what do you do with Leonard Fournette, the LSU running back? So he's going to go to the NFL. And a lot of people are saying he shouldn't play his last college game. So we'll have thoughts on that on the other side. Welcome back. LSU football player Leonard Fournette is going to enter the NFL draft. He is going to play in his final bowl game. A lot of people are saying he shouldn't play in his final bowl game. I think he should play in his final bowl game. And people can say, what about like Jalen Smith, a Notre Dame linebacker who played in the bowl game, even though he was going to be a top 5 pick, he got hurt. Look at him now. Yes, look at him now. But what about the thousands of guys who are going to the NFL and did play in their bowl games? Do you want guys just bailing on bowl games? Is that what you want to have? You want to have a society where everybody plays for themselves? When you play football, you play with teammates. And you make sacrifices. And you can't play scared or you end up looking like Cam Newton looks like right now. Throwing off his back foot because he's afraid to get hit. He's awful. So you made a commitment, and I'm all for upward mobility. But when you put your name to something and you're going to commit to something, you should stay with it for the remainder of the year. Now, if you want to leave after a year, if you want to bail early, now you can say, well, what about the coaches? They leave early. Yeah, they do. And I don't like it. But most of the time when a coach leaves before a bowl game, that is because the university doesn't want him around. The university's like, get out of here. You're bailing on us. Get lost. We'll have a coordinator coach. So Leonard Fournette, to me, signed up for it, and that's fine. But I don't think we should have a situation here where guys are consumed with, well, the next level. He also has 2 insurance policies. Leonard Fournette is the most insured college football player ever, and that's not hyperbole. That's a fact. He has $20 million in insurance coverage. So if he gets hurt, if his career ends, he'll get 10, and if his career doesn't end but he gets hurt, he can get another 10 or a separate 10. So I don't think you can play football scared. And like Lane Kiffin, for instance, he may get the Houston job. Okay, that's fine. But you better stay at Alabama and finish the job you promised Nick Saban you would finish. You've got to be the offensive coordinator against Alabama. I will say there are 2 things. Speaking of college football, there's 2 things here that are interesting to me. 2 things happening in college football that are interesting. Alabama is a huge favorite over Washington, right? There's 2 things that are really interesting in that game. First of all, Lane Kiffin may get another job. And Lane Kiffin can say, I'm all buttoned up, but Lane Kiffin's going to be looking through the windshield. Alabama's going to be in the rearview mirror. Despite what Nick Saban says, Lane Kiffin's going to be on his phone. Lane Kiffin's going to be distracted. It will not be his greatest coordinator job of all time if he plays Washington. The second thing is here, there's a story today that Pete Carroll and the Seahawks, and this is legal, are willing to help the University of Washington by practicing against them before the game with Alabama, because Alabama has so many good defensive players. In their front 7, they're going to have 2 or 3 first-round picks that Pete Carroll's saying, okay, and Alabama's been doing some of this at practice using NFL guys on a scout team. Pete Carroll's saying, okay, I'll help Washington. And Pete Carroll's every bit or more the defensive coordinator of Nick Saban. Pete Carroll's like, I'll help Washington. I think that's awesome. So, but, I almost feel like this Leonard Fournette story is going to end up going down a political, it'll be like the left-leaning media will be like, don't play, protect yourself. The conservative media will be like, you committed to the team. Like there's going to be a political line with this story. If you commit to something, finish it out. Now, again, I'm up for mobility. If it's the end of a season, go on. Player, coach, administrator. But in the middle of a season before it's finished, I think you should play. You've made a commitment to teammates. I think you should play. I don't think we should have a world where before bowl games, guys are like, hey, I got to protect myself for my insurance policy. I don't think that's good for anybody. I really don't. Just don't play. Just don't play afraid. Just go play and be dominant, and you'll be great. And it makes you look better anyway. The optics are good for NFL teams. You don't look selfish. Christine with the news.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
Odell Beckham Jr. had a problem with the refs from Sunday, the Steelers game, and said that those specific refs should be banned from any Giants game moving forward.
Oh, God.
Eli Manning said he would like Odell Beckham Jr. to take a different approach.
He's got to be careful of that. I think with the officials, we've always thought you kind of want to kill them with kindness. And if you start jabbing at them and talking, that's not going to help the case. That's not going to help you get calls if they're close. And so, he's got to learn, to be a good guy and, learn how to warm up to those guys so he can get some calls.
So this is the second time this season, from at least what I remember, that Eli Manning has called out Odell Beckham Jr. publicly, which to me doesn't sit well. I feel like you got to talk to that guy one-on-one. So I actually did some digging on this, and I found out that within the Giants organization, no one can talk to Odell Beckham Jr. He is completely just not connecting with anyone. No one can criticize him. No one can get to him. He's just a unique talent.
And he doesn't want to
be himself.
Yeah.
But I've also heard that if you try to take that away from him, he won't be the player that he still is.
Yeah.
So no, I believe that.
Yeah. Well,
really
Tom Brady's
musicians.
Tom Brady's a unique talent too, but he talks to people.
But he's different.
Yeah.
Like what motivates Tom Brady is different than what motivates Odell Beckham Jr., right? You look at a really talented musician, a lot of them are nuts, but you can't take that away or it hurts their creative abilities.
Right. That's why I would never marry a musician.
You're going to marry Odell Beckham Jr.?
I marry certain players for 15 years that have the ability to communicate with others.
But at the same time, is Eli really the
He's got two
best
Super Bowls.
example?
He's got 2 Super Bowls. Beat Brady both times. MVP. Pretty good.
How far would he be without Beckham, though?
He didn't win those with Beckham.
No, I know, but at least now.
Odell Beckham's never been in a playoff game. How valuable is he? How many Super Bowl titles Randy Moss have? T.O. have? You don't win on the perimeter. You win at the ball, out. You don't win on the sidelines, in.
All right, the Jets lost 41-10 yesterday, and Ryan Fitzpatrick was benched for Bryce Petty.
It was ugly.
Todd Bowles says that benching was going to happen sooner or later, no matter what the record was all season.
Well, the plan was for us to start in the last 4 games anyway, so we just started a half early. We could have won 45-0. He was going to start the last 4 games.
You buying that?
Well, I mean, Ryan Fitzpatrick is a journeyman, so I don't see the big value of. If you better find out if Bryce Petty can play. Right, he's been there a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, obviously, next year going into camp, it's going to be Bryce Petty and that Hackenberg kid. So you're done with Fitzgerald. You made your mind up. So why not play him for the last month? Especially a Baylor kid. See if he can play in the cold weather. See how he adapts. I actually thought out of college he was going to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. Huh. I did. But Bowles, the defensive guy, I don't know if he's got the right...
Not the right fit.
Yeah.
And finally, we now know the current standings for fan voting for the Pro Bowl. Do you want to guess who's number 1?
For the Pro Bowl?
Yeah.
Guess number 1. And number 1 who? The vote getter?
Mm-hmm, for the fans. Fan voting.
For the Pro Bowl? Mm-hmm. Well, oh, God, it'd be a Cowboy. It'd be Dak Prescott. No, it'd be Ezekiel Elliott.
Oh, yes. Ezekiel Elliott's number 1. Dak Prescott's number 2.
Yeah.
Want to guess the rest of the top 5?
Let's see. Okay, so Ezekiel's 1, Dak's 2. MVP. No, he's been out. God, a lot of guys have been out.
Why are you thinking MVP?
How about Derek Carr?
He's number 5.
Matt Ryan?
No.
Who?
Tom Brady is number 3. Antonio Brown number 4. Antonio Brown.
Yeah, these people that
the fans love Antonio Brown.
The fans don't know what they're doing.
Excuse me?
Everybody loves these like running backs and wide receivers. They're irrelevant.
Yeah, they score points.
They are. I mean, they just don't win championships.
What?
It's quarterback.
The quarter.
It doesn't matter who your running back is. If Dak Prescott was a terrible quarterback, Dallas would be 0-10, not 10-0.
So what about Ezekiel?
It's just a running back who's really good behind a great O-line. But again, if the quarterback, you can be average at running back and win Super Bowls. New England's done it 5 times.
Okay, so in that case, would you say that if you had to pick an MVP from the Cowboys, it would be Dak and not Ezekiel?
Well, it'd be the offensive line, but they don't do that in voting.
No,
I think their offensive line is not only the best unit in pro football, I don't even know what's second. Like, if I said, what's the second best unit in pro football? Seattle's secondary, maybe. Now Earl Thomas is out. I mean, I think Dallas's O-line is head and shoulders above the league as far as impactfulness.
Okay.
Okay.
That's the news.
Christine with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Lie News.
Last week he called the Giants and the Steelers game. And this Sunday he's got the Seahawks and the Packers game. So he is the number one play-by-play guy for our network. He had the Cubs World Series. He gets all the good assignments. How
does that happen?
I know, well, because he's good. He never gets like the Browns, Jags. I always thought that would be tough. If you were a baseball announcer, and what if your team was like, you work your whole life to become a Major League Baseball announcer, and you get like a terrible team, and like 18 years, and you never make the playoffs. Isn't that a depressing job?
Yeah, but then there's always like the other side of it too, the local teams who broadcast the games all season long, and then it goes to the playoffs, and then the national broadcast takes over.
That'd be a bummer too.
Yeah.
So you're with the team all year, and then Joe Buck swoops in and gets all the love.
I always feel bad for those guys too.
He also has, Buck's got tattoos.
Really?
Yeah.
So do you, though.
No, I have one tattoo, and it's unfortunate. But his, I think he wanted.
You didn't want.
I didn't want my tattoo.
How many tattoos does he have?
I have one, and I regret every day of my life that I have a tattoo.
Joe, did you know Colin has a tattoo also?
It's embarrassing.
I gave it to him.
Yeah. Get up here, Joe Buck.
Oh, okay.
He's got a new book out. There it is right there. Let's hear Joe Buck. Yeah, Joe Buck. Look at that. I was watching this weekend at Giants Steelers, and they showed where you were sitting at the game, and I'm like, that's a crappy seat. Was it a very? How do you watch the Do you watch the TV or the game?
As my age has crept closer and closer to 50, I'm TV.
Okay, I was gonna say.
And that is, all these different stadiums, you have a different, not only height, but a different angle.
Right.
So a lot of times, like in Heinz Field, it's hard to see the far sideline and to get an idea. It's hard to see the difference between the 8 and the 6. So I'll watch the TV, and the yellow line is on the TV. So many times I would get home and I'd watch a copy of the game, and I'm like bumbling around going, I don't know if it's a first down. And then you see it on TV, and the guy's 9 feet over the yellow line. People are going, this guy's dumber than I thought he was.
What's the best stadium to broadcast in?
Chicago or Green Bay? Green Bay is really good, but not as low. Chicago is, for some reason, it's low. Typically, it's better to be a little bit up. But the angle is so good that it's like you can see guys' facial expressions.
In Soldier Field?
In Soldier Field.
Wow.
We're down, tucked underneath.
Oh.
So there are fans right in front of us. It is easily the best seat in any house.
For the record, you obviously very smooth. And when I listen to the Cubs World Series, it's very, very easy for you. But you talk about in your book, you had a broadcast in the late 90s that was a bass fishing tournament that went horribly wrong. Can you tell me that?
Well, I just think by virtue of the description of the event, it was live, bass fishing, TV. Those things should never be in the same sentence.
How'd you get roped into that?
David Hill. He's like, it's going to be great. It's going to be the next NASCAR. And the only problem was somebody forgot to tell the fish to bite between 4:30 and 6 Eastern.
Hour and a half, no bites.
Hour and a half, basically nothing. And it was live, so it's like, so these guys have been fishing all day, and we had told them in a production meeting, all these different fishermen or anglers that were trying to win whatever the hell they were trying to win, hey, at 4:30, we're coming on, so flip your microphone on and your earpiece on. Every one of them forgot to do it. So it'd be like, hey, let's go to Colin Cowherd. He's out on Lake Lulu. Colin, how they biting out there? All right, let's check in over here with Bob Jones. And it was, so not only was it that, but the great payoff was a weigh-in of fish. That's what you're building toward? That's the walk-off moment where somebody hits the scale? It sucks.
I grew up in a fishing village on the coast of Washington, so that is a big moment in my life.
Well, I'm not saying I'm not denigrating the sport.
But for
I'm
a
just saying
broadcaster,
for live network television,
flat. Flat.
Yeah, it's a little flat.
Okay, so there's a great story. The 1998 home run chase, Mark McGwire is going to break the Roger Maris record.
Right.
And so do we have the call on this? I want to play the call. Okay, so let's play the call by Joe Buck. Let's play this thing here, Sammy.
The man of the hour, Mark McGwire, who is 0 for 1 tonight, his second at bat here in the fourth. Matt McGwire looks on, wondering if this is the at bat. Tuesday, September 8th, that Mark McGwire moves one place in front of Roger Maris.
Down the left field line, is it enough? Gone! There it is! 62
God,
Now,
I used to be good.
You were really something.
That was a good call.
You were something back then.
Those were the days. I remember the next day, Michael Heastand of USA Today said it was a less than memorable call, and it was nothing like Al Michaels' "Do You Believe in Miracles?"
There's he was comparing you to the Mona Lisa.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And he had a clock, by the way, going 5, 4, and that's when you gear up. You turn the jets on, and you go. You got 3 seconds. The puck's at mid ice. It's going to happen. This happens in the blink of an eye.
And the story is you scripted something for that call.
I did. I made the mistake because everybody was asking me, for months, if it happens, what are you going to say? And I was like, I don't know I don't have no idea. I just call the game. And they're like, well, what are you going to say? It's going to be historic. And then I started to go to bed thinking about what I was going to say and waking up thinking about what I was going to say. And I wrote down some stupid line in my scorebook that was like, and there goes Mark McGwire around the bases and into the history books or something cheesy. And because that home run was barely fair.
Yeah.
And
barely gone.
over the wall, I had to watch because it would really be bad if my eyes go down to this dumb script that I wrote, and then I look up and it's like, I'm sorry, foul ball, just out of play off to the left of the foul pole. That'd be the end of my life.
So you learn, don't script stuff.
You can't. And, whether it's the Cubs winning their first World Series in over 100 years, or it's the home run, or it's the Steelers beating the Giants this last week, you just kind of have to rely on whatever comes out.
You've called 4 Dallas Cowboy games this year, and when you call them with Troy Aikman, Troy is still a megastar, especially in Dallas. Does it feel different to you as a broadcaster to do a Cowboy game with Troy?
Yeah, and I think there's pressure on him. I think anytime he reacts to the Cowboys' quarterback situation, antennas go up, and he's got to walk a fine line. First of all, we're all friendly with Tony Romo. Secondly, he's been the 3-time Super Bowl champion quarterback that basically built the house that we're sitting in when we do the game. And finally, we've gotten to know Dak, and it's like, man, this guy is more impressive off the field than he is on. And so you can't get too wrapped up in all that stuff, and you've got this weird situation with a multi-million-dollar backup now and Tony Romo, who's holding the clipboard while this kid leads him to 11 straight wins. There's a lot of minds out there for him to kind of wander through. So we kind of talk about it a little bit before we go on the air, and then when he gets into the heart of it, I just save it for the air. I don't want to hear it now. I want to be able to react to whatever you're saying, and vice versa.
By the way, Jerry's an interesting fellow. You see Jerry Jones.
Cowboys.
Cowboys, Jeff.
Cowboys.
Yeah, Dallas.
Stage him.
See, I always liked him because I think
I love him.
He drinks hard liquor and tells stories.
That's right.
Only thing he's missing is a gun in a holster.
Right.
I love him. I find him fascinating.
Yeah, I've never thought about it in those terms, oddly enough. But yeah, I admire the guy. People in Dallas and Cowboy fans moan and groan about some of the general manager decisions that he's made. Well, look at this year. People were ripping on him for drafting a running back as high as he did. They've done nothing but stock that offensive line. They find Dak Prescott in the 4th round. He's doing something right. And the amazing thing is he's one of the biggest stars, maybe the biggest star in the NFL. He has kept the Dallas Cowboys, who have been basically 500 up until this team since they were going to playoffs every year with Aikman at quarterback. And yet they're still the biggest TV draw, and people want to know what Jerry has to say. And the shot of him up there with his remote control up in his luxury suite, in his big old dome, big Vidya board.
Yeah, it's an amazing stadium.
It's amazing. Maybe rivaled by the new one in Minneapolis. It's built by the same people. And in some ways, it's a little more intimate, and it may surpass it.
Joe Buck joining us. He's got a new book. You can see it on the screen. It's got a swear word.
You just don't want to say the B word.
Yeah,
Why?
Do you
can't
want to say it?
Lucky bastard. We can't in this world on this station.
My dad and the things I'm not allowed to say on TV.
You won't say bastard.
Well, I don't have a problem.
He called it a swear word.
Now, let me say this. You address something in the book, and I'm comfortable with this because I like you, that I thought was very funny. You addressed the Todd Zeal thing.
The gay thing?
I never heard about it.
Yeah, and I have a friend of mine who works with me, and he's like, why are you educating people on something that nobody knows, really? I mean, it was more around St. Louis. It was more...
People said they thought...
that Todd and I were Gay, lovers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
We weren't.
So you would know if you were.
I think I would remember that.
So how did you hear it? Like, usually you don't hear things when people are talking about me. I don't hear it.
It was started by a player. Todd and I were in the minor leagues together. Todd was, and I'm sure you probably know Todd. If you don't,
great player.
He's in L.A., great player, made a lot of money, a lot of different teams. But he was always kind of a little bit of a misfit. He's a smart guy. His brother is an aeronautics guy. He and I had the similar interests. We were in the minor leagues together, so we'd go see movies. You're looking for somebody to hang out with. And when he got to the big leagues, I got to the big leagues. And at that time in the collective bargaining agreement, players didn't have single rooms. So they had to room with somebody or pay extra to have their own room. I, as a member of the Cardinals radio team, got my own room. He was looking for a roommate, didn't really connect with any of his players. He's like, well, you want to we're hanging out anyway. And so then players are like, well, he shouldn't be rooming with a member of the media. And they were right. I didn't think of it that way, but it rubbed some players the wrong way. Torrey was the manager. He brought us into his office. He's like, look, guys, I don't care, but it doesn't look good to some players. And I get it. I got it.
Sure.
But a couple of players that I don't think like Todd started spreading that rumor, at least around the metropolis that is St. Louis, Missouri.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Joe DiMaggio struggled with players because he was smart. Smart people are in professional sports.
It's a weird life because you're up all night. You're back to the hotel late. Everybody goes to the hotel bar. Back then, and this wasn't the case with Zeal, I know personally, but a lot of guys were coming off greenies, so they drink themselves to sleep every night.
Really?
And that's what leads to a lot of the late nights at bars because they amphetamines. If Major League Baseball's done one great thing in their drug testing, they've taken amphetamines out of the game, and they can test for that easily.
You knew they were around.
What's that?
When you were broadcasting, you knew they were everywhere.
Oh my God, yeah. I mean, they used to mess around with one of the Cardinals had an old third base coach. They'd drop him in his coffee, and
you're up all night.
Joe, watch him. Galen Pitts was the guy's name. Watch him today at third base coaching. I mean, he was going through the signs like he was going 1,000 miles an hour because somebody had put greenies, unbeknownst to him, in his coffee. Good thing he made it out of there alive.
Okay, you've been doing like 19 World Series?
Yeah.
Good God. Red Sox 2004, Cubs 2016 World Series. We have audio of both. Okay, so give me the Red Sox in 2004. Even though, give me it. Roll this, Sammy. All right, here we go.
Back to Folk. Red Sox fans have longed to hear it. The Boston Red Sox are world champions. It has been 86 years. Generations have come and gone.
God, I remember that. That was great. Okay, I was living in the East Coast then. All right, now...
Not in the fishing village in the state of Washington?
I had bounced around the broadcasting industry, and I was now at a former employer. A miserable place to live.
About that.
Yeah. And then they let go of me. All right, this is the Cubs. This just happened. This was great. Let's roll the tape on this, Sammy.
Here's the 0-1. This is going to be a tough play. Bryant, the Cubs win the World Series!
God, that's goosebumps.
Bryant makes the play! It's over! And the Cubs have finally won it all! 8-7-10.
God. Now that feels to me, they're both great calls. The Cubs meant more for me. Maybe because I like Chicago. Well, were they different for you?
Yeah, they were different for me. I think as great as it was for Boston, Curse of the Bambino, they had come back down 3-0 to beat the Yankees, and nobody was going to stop them then. That was the best Cardinal team I saw, the 2004 team. They had no chance against the Boston Red Sox with the kind of roll they were on. And it was a 4-game sweep. And the Red Sox had been there. They were there in 86, they lost. They were there in 75, they lost. They were there in 67, they lost. The Cubs hadn't been there since right after World War II. They hadn't won it since before the Titanic went down. Yeah, I mean, it was over 100 years. That felt like, my God. And at some point it hit me in the middle of that call like, holy blank, it's over. They did it.
I know. And the last great baseball story that was not closed.
Yeah.
Cleveland kind of.
And the sad thing is that when you hear that in my voice, if I'm an Indians fan, it's what we've talked about 3,000 times, but it's like that's a moment I have to pay respect to in that way. I'm happy with that call. It would have been the same way for the Cleveland Indians, I'm sure. But, one team wins, one team loses, and the team that loses, those fans are going, this guy hates the Cleveland Indians. That's ridiculous.
Right.
But you have to honor the team that wins, and that's the battle I fight every year.
Yeah, I still think your bass fishing calls were pretty good.
Those were good. Those were really good. And, when I said I said this on national television. So as you know, these fishermen are out there and trying to catch bass, and obviously the name of the game is the bigger the bass, the better off they are. Wow. I mean, that is like the dumbest thing anybody's ever uttered. Really? That's what they're – so they're not trying to catch smaller fish.
Okay. Here's his book, Lucky Bastard.
You said it.
My Life, My Dad, the things
we didn't get into hair plugs. We didn't get into the tattoo. We didn't get into my love for my dad.
With the tattoos?
Okay,
how many do you
don't
have?
go anywhere. Just stay here. All right, we'll come back with Buck in a second, the Herd. Well, welcome back. Joe Buck joining us. New book, Lucky Bastard, My Life, My Dad, the things I'm not allowed to say on TV. This week, Seahawks-Packers. That's going to be really Green Bay's season nutshell here.
Yep.
They got to win that game. Detroit's playing out of their mind. Stafford.
They seem to find themselves in this position quite a bit.
Yeah, and they're good in December. Steelers-Packers, always good in December.
Yeah.
Play very, very well at home. So, a tattoo thing. I got mine regrettably. I lost a race at ESPN, and I did it, and I regret it every day of my life. Yours is around the
What is it?
Oh, it's a here.
By the way, he lost a race. Doesn't
That's
that
me.
sound funny?
That's
okay,
mine.
Yours looks great. So I'm going to let you tell your story. I lost a race, and so they said, "What do you want to get?" And I said, "I'd never had a tattoo. I'm not a tattoo guy." And so at the time, I was going to Vegas a lot and gambling, so I got a
drinking.
Yeah, and then OJ trial had just finished, and my kid's initials are
Judge
OJ, so I put a J-O. I reversed it. Because I didn't want to have OJ with a Vegas symbol. I'm like, oh, good God, what message does that send?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's mine. That's pathetic. So let's talk about your tattoo.
And ironically enough, OJ would later get arrested in Vegas.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So tell me your story.
Just kind of messages to myself. That so what thing is when my dad, the B word that you don't want to say in my book title.
Yeah.
I am that. I came along at a time that, let's say, my dad wasn't expecting, as he was married with 6 kids and had met my mom, and then they got married 7.5 minutes before I was born. And so that's how I came onto the earth. And my mom was dealing with a lot of things around St. Louis, including with his first family and the kids. And he had given her a bracelet that said, "So what?" Like, so what? We're living our lives. We're in love. We're going to do our thing. And I when I went through divorce and went through depression and almost lost my voice, and that was something I put on my not so big bicep, and as a reminder that when I'm in the mirror and forcing myself to look at myself in a towel, I see so what.
And your life's okay.
My life's good. I mean, what? Yeah, my life's better than good. I am the lucky part in my book title should be way bigger than the B word because I am lucky. I came along at the perfect time. Fox got into the game and they start covering the NFL. I'm at the right age. Had never done the NFL. Came out here for an audition. Went well. Then I get hired to do football. Had never done football. Then they get baseball, and I'm doing that. And it just the timing has been so lucky and fortuitous that, you know, I've been fortunate to be in the right place at the right time.
Are you ever, I tell people this, that you don't root for teams, but you do root for good games. So, for instance, if a game's 27-0, you're rooting for the nothing to get to 26.
Yes.
Generally, you're rooting because you want a bigger audience. Do you find yourself ever having to check yourself? Because you're not a fan. I know how you think. I do the same way. I'm looking for dumpster fires and 3-alarm blazes. I'm looking for stuff that's interesting. My audience swells. Have you ever been like with the Cubs this year? Hard not to get caught up into it.
Yeah, no, it was. And have I ever had to check myself? No, because I feel like any different than when I'm playing golf. I've played golf with people that are like, how do you not talk like this when you're on the air? Like with the words I might use if a putt doesn't go in.
Yeah,
I
get that.
They're like, how do you not? And I said, well, because when that headset goes on my head, it's like my stupid little cape and how in my world. Like I know I'm a different person when that thing's on. I'm not rooting for or against. I'm rooting for the game. I'm rooting for, in a postseason series, volume of games. But I don't think that way any more than I'm going to say the F word on Sunday with the Packers and the Seahawks. There's nothing that will happen where I will say that on the air unless somebody catches me off the air saying it and plays it. I don't think that way.
Do you think you've ever had problems? And I thought this network did a really good thing to put you on the World Series. We got a minute left. But when you were doing baseball and they shifted you into football, baseball probably didn't like that. In 45 seconds, do you ever feel like you owe baseball a little more love? Because football's gotten big, but you're a baseball guy at start.
Yeah, and but I don't think they worry about that. I think if I'm sitting in that seat, or Vasgersian sitting in that seat, or Brenneman sitting in that seat, or Kenny Albert sitting in that seat, people are going to watch. And if it's a compelling series and game, they're going to stay with it. And if it's not, they're going to go on to something else. And this year just happened to be a record-setting fun season and postseason that I don't think any of us will ever forget.
Well, I didn't get to your hair plugs because I don't frankly care, and I couldn't tell anyway. And you've got a beautiful wife, and you're amazing.
It's the story about
the hair plugs. I guess you're going to have to get the book.
I know the story.
Get the book, Lucky Bastard, Life, Dad, and the Things I'm Not Allowed to Say on TV. I got 8 seconds. He's one of my idols. He knows that, and he's Joe Buck, and I'm leaving TV and going to Fox Sports Go. This is The Herd. Wherever you may be and however you may be listening, live in Los Angeles on iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio, and FS1 by Joe Buck's book. He didn't get to the best story of all about his hair and stuff. Christine Leahy joining me as always. I got to say this. Last night was such a pleasure to watch team basketball with the Golden State Warriors. Christine and I have different belief systems on basketball. I like sharing.
We have different belief systems on basketball?
But here's the thing, is that Kevin Durant is proving he can play multiple styles of basketball. At Texas, he was the Westbrook. And then he goes to Oklahoma City, and he's kind of the number 2 in ball control to Westbrook. And then now he goes to Golden State, and last night he can play along, pass, and have an average night where a teammate scores 60. What I love about LeBron is he's amenable and capable of playing several different styles of basketball. Carmelo's not. Allen Iverson went from Philly to Denver. Remember that Denver team with Allen Iverson with all that talent? He has one gear. Allen plays the way he plays. There's no other way for Allen to play. What I love about Kevin Durant is I've seen 3 Kevin Durants. I got the college Kevin Durant where he needed to score 30. I got the Oklahoma City Durant where he wasn't going to score 30 regularly because the guy with the ball wouldn't get him the ball at the right spot, so he had to be a good teammate. And then now in Golden State, he's the best teammate, and he is now playing super absurdly efficient basketball, taking fewer shots, but he is a better basketball player because he doesn't waste motion, time, or take bad shots. And I love that. And I think that's what I really appreciate about D. Wade. And I appreciate it about LeBron. They're almost like actors that can do a comedy, that can do a dark movie, that could do science fiction. They can do multiple things. Kevin Durant and LeBron can play multiple games. Westbrook's got his game, and that's what it is. It's like Iverson and Marbury. This is what it is. It's almost like, there's certain actors out there, they can just play one role. And that's what they do. They play one role, they play it over and over and over and over, and that's what they do. And they're great at it. I prefer people who can do multiple roles. In my opinion, that's what makes great. Magic Johnson could score 40, or he could score 8 and have 12 turnovers, or 12 assists. Magic could play multiple games. Magic was a chameleon. What did the game need? Magic would provide what the game needed. That's not Westbrook. That's not Iverson. That's not Marbury. This is what I am. Regardless of what the game needs, this is what I am. James Harden is a little like that. Here's what I provide. If the game needs me to do something else, I don't provide that. This is the actor I am. This is the role. This is the language. This is my style. This is my temperament. So what you do as a director is you find that guy for that role. I have always preferred people who can do multiple roles. I like actors and I like my athletes that way. And Westbrook, is a lot like the young Michael Jordan, 88, 89. Both averaged over 31. Both had multiple triple-doubles, but neither could win a championship. And I think Westbrook's a lot like the young Jordan. The young Jordan was, you couldn't take your eyes off him. He was, if you use the words you'd use, relentless, dynamic, tiger. But Michael didn't really evolve until Phil Jackson came around and said, dude, do you want to score 40 or do you want to win titles? Because if you want to win titles, you're going to have to pass the ball to Steve Kerr. And you're going to have to be a better teammate. And you're going to have to realize you can't do it all. So Phil Jackson, after Michael had struggled for years, went to him and said, and Phil Jackson was sort of lucky. He didn't inherit the young Michael. He got the Michael who had lost to the Celtics, the Michael who had struggled with teammates, the Michael since college who had gone like 7 years not winning. And Phil Jackson said, you need to be a little bit different, Michael. Let's get a little better, Michael. Let's refine it. And he did, and he won. So that's what I say. With Kevin Durant, now I'm getting the third Durant. That's amazing. I'm getting the third different view of Durant. I think Westbrook, same guy, will be for the rest of his life. And I don't think Westbrook will age particularly well. He's so vertical and dynamic. When that goes, it's over. Durant could shoot for 20 more years. Durant's length and shooting ability, Kevin Durant, if it wasn't about ego and stuff, Durant could be in this league for 20 more years. Westbrook is going to be the base stealer whose legs go, can't steal bases, and only hits 230. So Westbrook, by the way, up in turnovers, down in field goal percentage. It's fantastic, and it's wonderful, and he's talented. But this is kind of... Here's a play from the Warriors last night. God, they're good. This is how you should play basketball in 2016. Roll the tape.
And a tip blown by the Warriors. Draymond Green to Curry. Lob back to Red, who dumped it down. He dumped it down. Curry caught it in the air and threw it back, and Durant slammed it. Drop the mic. Go home.
That's how you should play basketball. Guys, if you're wondering whether your shirt's too long to wear untucked, probably is. Untuckit.com has solved the problem. Shirts designed to be worn untucked. Use the code SPORTS for 15% off in the code box. They have a store in L.A. on Melrose Avenue. Interesting, they had Lamar Jackson's going to be at the Heisman ceremony, and Deshaun Watson's going to be at the Heisman ceremony. And I guess people are upset that Michigan's Jabril Peppers is going to be at the Heisman ceremony. All right. You do get it's a TV show, right? So the Grammys just nominated for Album of the Year Beyonce, Drake, Justin Bieber, and Adele. You do get the Grammys is a TV show. This begins another episode of Why I Hate the Heisman.
Now it's time for another edition of Colin Hates the Heisman.
First of all, it's subjective to begin with. So why not Jabril Peppers? He's going to go like third in the draft. He's a remarkable player. I've seen him on TV like 6-7 times. He's unbelievable. He didn't have a ton of interceptions, but sometimes the great corners don't get him because nobody throws in their direction. If you looked at tape and you were playing Michigan, you'd say, let's throw away from Jabril Peppers. But I always wondered this, and Christine, maybe you can enlighten me. When people talk about Colin, pop music, pop stands for popular. Mm-hmm. Like the Grammys are a television show, and the Heisman is a television show. In a year like this year, when there's just a bunch of guys, why couldn't I bring on a guy from a big program who's a defensive guy, who's sort of interesting, instead of giving you another quarterback from another program that went 8-4? The Grammys is a television show. The Heisman is an awful television show, which needs life and controversy. If I ran the Heisman and I worked for the other network, I would put one guy in every year that was controversial.
I completely disagree with you.
Why?
Especially when you put it in terms of the Grammys, because I think both awards have a certain prestige about them. And if you just put someone in for the shock value, it takes down the level of prestige of just being nominated.
Well, Archie Griffin won it twice, and he admits today that compared to winning and beating Michigan, it's not as meaningful. So for the players, it doesn't mean that much. For the media, it's just a media show. Like, what is the meaning of the Heisman?
Think about it. It's like, if you were a musician, I don't know what the radio equivalent would be, or TV, I guess an Emmy, but if you had worked your entire life and the ultimate thing you could be recognized for was a Grammy, and then they're just letting someone be nominated in that category for the shock value for the television.
Yeah, but
viewer.
we do. It's an interesting philosophical question.
Right.
Like, I was never a believer in awards in this business. Like, I can tell you who has it, and I can watch TV for 5 minutes and go, she has it, he has it, she doesn't, he doesn't. Who cares about awards? Like, are people defined by Grammys? I understand a producer, because nobody, the audience, like Quincy Jones, if it wasn't for all the Grammys, I don't know the music industry.
Oh, to get the recognition.
But if you're a rock and roll band, you're a big star. Mm-hmm. You get the fame, you get the money, you get the sales, you're adored, and you're doing unbelievable music. Mm-hmm. What does the Grammy mean? For the producer, for the lighting guy, I understand, like, for the Oscars. Don't we all know Morgan Freeman can act? Like, does he need that little body on his...
I'm not sure, because I'm with you, and that's why I said, like, I guess the Emmy, because for us, I don't really think about that either, winning an award. Maybe it's different for an actor and a musician.
Meryl Streep 16 times has been nominated and didn't win. I don't think anything less of her. Like, she's great. Next. Like Ed Norton. Does he have an Oscar? No. He's great. DiCaprio, great. Like, you can act or not.
But then when does it stop? If you're putting in that one person for the shock value, when does it stop? You could just turn the entire thing into a joke.
It's not like Jabril Peppers can't play. He's going to go like third in the draft.
But if you open that door...
Which is what? Put a great player in for the TV value and people to talk about it? That's not a bad door.
Then how many more people are eventually going to be put in for the
If you bring
value?
5 people a year, and every year you want a unique candidate that gets people talking, it is a television show, right?
So what's to stop it from the next year being 2?
Why not do that?
Because then you're weeding out the people who actually deserve to be nominated.
So that goes back to my least favorite word in the American vocabulary. Deserve. What is deserve? Nobody deserves this award. I mean, this year's class, Deshaun Watson's had an off year.
But if your son played football and he had the chance to win the Heisman, that would mean something to you.
I got to tell you, it's really funny. I'm not an award guy at all. You know me. I'm not
I know you're not, but I would think...
Do you know, like
if your son could win the Heisman, that would make you pretty excited.
It wouldn't mean a thing.
Really?
It would not. Now, what would mean a lot to me is, first of all, if my son was available, I would want him to go to an academic power that played football at a good level. Mm-hmm. So I'd say, Stanford, consider Stanford. Ivy League, the football's not good enough. If my son was a great quarterback, I would say, really consider academics. That's the first thing So the most important thing was, your football career is going to last 8 years. Get a degree. The second thing is, let's go to a university where football's important, but it's not everything. I wouldn't let my son play in the SEC.
Okay.
It's not, football is too important. I think in the Big Ten, you've got a balance between academics and football. I would want my son to go experience college, care about football deeply at Wisconsin, but it doesn't define him. I don't want the academics and football to be massively out of whack. And then after that, I couldn't give a rip about the awards. All Big Ten. Again, I'm not. Maybe I'm wrong here. Are you an awards person?
Not really. No.
Have you ever won an award? I've won a couple. I don't even know where.
Yeah. I won one last year, and it meant that one actually meant a lot.
Okay, what was that one?
It was the Gracie.
That was a big one. I was there for that.
You
one.
Actually and presented me with the award. I think it depends. I think it depends on the award.
So you don't like my idea of, I think Jabril Peppers, I'm like, well, it's like putting Justin Bieber. I don't care. Like, pop music's popular. If the audience says we like it, put it up for a Grammy. Jabril Peppers, Michigan.
That's different. I guess if you're going to defend pop music that way.
Well, Jabril Peppers is one of the 5 best players in college football. You know the guy that should be up there that's not, because we don't give defensive guys any credit? That defensive lineman for Alabama, Jonathan Allen, is the closest thing I've seen in college from, Reggie White. Jonathan Allen is unblockable at the college level. But because we're so enamored with quarterbacks that play for, that put up big numbers, I think we should do every year? One defensive player should be in every single class. You're going to tell me there's not one defensive guy? Steve Ettman at Washington wasn't. Leroy Selman at Oklahoma shouldn't have been. Chris Spielman at Ohio State didn't deserve it. Jabril Peppers doesn't deserve it. That kid for Alabama, Reuben Foster, the linebacker, they don't deserve it. One defensive player a year has to be in. And by the way, there's usually about 7 you could put in. The year that Auburn won a national title, everybody loved Cam Newton. You know who was great that year? Remember the defensive lineman that stopped Oregon? Nick Fairley shut Oregon's running game down completely. Chip Kelly said afterwards, we had to bail on the run. We couldn't run. Why isn't he at the Heisman? Why are we putting defensive guys in there?
They have to have one per year? That's very against your typical thinking.
When I say you have to, I say you have a defensive slot. You can have 5 guys. It's not like I wouldn't be desperate. I'm not saying you have to have a kicker or a special teams gunner. I'm saying pick the best defensive guy he gets into. We don't give defensive guys any credit, and I'm not, I understand not doing it, but when's the last time we had a lineman up for any of these awards?
So you're for the award if it goes to a defensive player?
I'm for the TV show of the Heisman being better because it's unbearable to watch, and it should be a better television show, and if you put a defensive guy and got people cackling back and forth, it'd be a better TV show. I was just thinking about that Heisman thing. If you were the coach of Washington, Chris Peterson, and you put in the tape of Alabama, the very first thing that you ask yourself as a staff is, how do we block Jonathan Allen? How do we block him? That's the first question you ask. And the answer is you don't. So apparently Washington and the Seahawks are going to work a conjoined effort here that Seattle, the Seahawks, could help Washington get ready for the national championship game. I do think Alabama, statistically, this is one of the best college football teams I've ever seen. Now, some of this is because the SEC coaching is in the toilet. It's awful. I said this a couple days ago. If UCLA's job came open, and I take UCLA because it's not the best job in the conference, not the worst. It's somewhere slightly above average in the Pac-12. It's top 4 or 5. If that job came open outside of Kevin Sumlin and Nick Saban, what SEC coach would even get an interview? Maybe Jim McElwain? The Big Ten would have 10 guys that would get an interview, and 9 could have the job if they wanted it. It's just the coaching in the Big Ten. The athletes are better than the SEC still. In the geographical footprint, they have more good athletes. But the coaching in the SEC is awful outside of Saban, and Sumlin's offensive coaching is very clever. It's bad. Big Ten coaching is fantastic. Fantastic. We'll play Hunch or Lunch before the end of the show today. Christine just spilled coffee everywhere. I've done that
Thanks for calling me out.
That's okay. I've done that twice here.
Well, the thing was, I thought I threw it in the trash, but the trash was not in the normal place, so it just actually went on the floor. So I threw coffee on the floor.
One of the things I got to ask...
This is fun, though. I'm standing.
Eric Mangini is... I watched Andrew Luck last night, and he was just amazing, and he is amazing. But you were watching Cam Newton, and Cam Newton's just deteriorated. And I think it's pretty obvious that Cam Newton said a month ago, I'm afraid to get hit. I'm afraid to play. I'm not getting the calls by the ref. And if you watch his body language, his mechanics have gone into the toilet. And Peter King an hour ago talked about that.
He's basically having to bail so often because of his offensive line. Khalil is a huge injury on that offensive line. And obviously no Michael Oher. But what I'm saying is that I think Cam Newton, if you look at his mechanics, look at how he's throwing way on his back foot so often. Those are not positive, good body mechanics for a quarterback. So to me, I think that's part of it.
Yeah, I mean, when you watch Cam, obviously the offensive line, but I think it's in his head. I think Cam is playing a kind of with some fear. I don't think he's all in. As I've said before, he's a franchise quarterback. I don't think he's a great quarterback. We've got 6 years. We have 1 great year and 5 meh. If you take out his 1 great year, he's sub 500. If you take out Andrew Luck's 1 lacer-rated kidney year, he's remarkable. So I think I just think fans choose who they like. Some of you wanted Mickelson to win. I was a Tiger guy. Some of you wanted Bird to win. I was a Magic guy. Some of you have rooted for Cam. I root for Luck. I think he's better. And in all 3 cases, I think I've been right. I think Andrew Luck's... I think if you had every general manager today and you could choose Cam or Luck, I think they'd all choose Luck. I think 32 would choose Luck. I think he's more dependable, less emotional roller coaster. He's getting more efficient. He's trending up. And I think you have a kid who is... by nature, really physical, likes the physicality, and you got to talk him out of being physical. I think the game's in Cam's head right now. I think he's been hit too much, doesn't get the calls, and the game's in his head. Christine with the news.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
Pete Carroll says he doesn't rule out a possible scrimmage with the Huskies for the Huskies to get ready for their game against Alabama.
Love this.
Alabama has a lot of NFL-ready players.
Yes.
So I think I would love it for the Huskies. Do we love it for the Seahawks, though, during their season?
I don't know. It's a good question. I'll ask Mangini. I'm not sure exactly how they do it. I actually think the speed of Seattle would actually help Washington understand what they're dealing with. First of all, Washington's really young. Mm-hmm. The team's all sophomores. Alabama's old. They're all juniors and seniors. You're just talking about bigger men. Alabama's got 23-year-olds. Washington has 21-year-olds. I think it's going to be... I will say this. I think Washington's coaching will neutralize the Alabama coaching advantage they usually have. But I think Alabama's a bigger, stronger team with more juniors and seniors, and Washington's in big trouble. The line's like 13. I don't think it's going to be that close. I would, for the record, even though I'm from the Pacific Northwest, I would like to see somebody besides Alabama win because I love college football, and I think it'd be better for the sport.
So then is there even a point if they have no chance at winning to then scrimmage against an NFL team?
You always sell to your team you have a chance to win. You always sell that to your team.
Probably a great recruiting tool, too.
The coaches at Washington know, looking at the tape, they know they should be a 2-touchdown underdog. Mm-hmm. They're looking at the tape. Chris Peterson's going, they've got bigger, stronger, older players than us. Washington next year, they return everybody. Washington next year would match up pretty good. They'd still lose, but it'd be close. I think they're too young to win this game.
Okay. Jeff Fisher is one loss away from having the most losses at the NFL for a head coach. He was asked if that bothers him.
No, I don't. Actually, I don't look at that. I've had a few wins in my career as well, and I've also been able to be very, very fortunate and have a long career. So, you can look at it as this glass half full or half empty. I look at it as half full, and I'm just honored that I still have an opportunity to coach in this league.
That's the right answer.
Really? What do you think about that?
Well, that's the right answer for that situation. He has, by the way, he does have a bunch of wins, and he's been to a Super Bowl, and I just think the game has become very offensive, and that is not his forte, and I think he and John Fox feel like they're good football guys. Maybe they could be general managers, but I think the game with John Fox and Jeff Fisher, the rules of the game don't benefit their coaching styles, and I think they feel a little past their prime.
Okay. You always like giving coaches time, giving them the benefit of the doubt, too, which is why I want to know what you think about this. Doug Peterson, a lot of people have been calling for him to be fired with the Eagles.
God.
They're 5-7. But he now says that he is confident that he will be the coach next year and has been assured of his job.
Fans are idiots. If you fire Doug Peterson after 1 year, what is the message you're sending to every candidate? That would be the dumbest thing you could do in the world.
I agree.
It's ridiculous.
That's the news.
Christine with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Lie News.
The defensive coordinator with the Patriots, a head coach, Jets and Browns. Let's bring on Eric Mangini. See, I defended coaches there.
Yeah, it's rare, though. It's rare.
Oh, come on. Do you think I attack coaches?
I don't think you attack coaches. I think that sometimes you get caught up in the moment and maybe make a statement that could be a little unfair.
Okay, Jeff Fisher. I said this to Peter King earlier. Mm-hmm. You can make the argument what Stan Kroenke is doing is sending a message to great candidates. I give you extra years. It's what the Mara family did with Coughlin. If the Jets fired Bowles, the message is, hey, if you move your family out here and I give you Geno Smith 3 years and you're gone, facing Tom Brady twice a year. That's a terrible message to the industry.
Well, look, it's trending towards people getting fired a lot quicker than it used to be. Look at the volume of coordinators that get fired every year. We had a coordinator fired in the second week of the season. I mean, that to me is how do you justify that? What didn't you know prior to the second week of the season that suddenly you know that you go ahead and make a change or any of those decisions? Look, sometimes there's a bump, and I know that you have to feed the lions at different points, but it just seems like there's this rush to change that it can't get worse. And look, it can get a lot worse.
You know, my theory on this is that NFL owners have always been worth $700 million. They're now worth $12 billion. And when people get richer, they get more out of touch. There's more pressure, and they're less realistic. and most of these NFL owners 30 years ago, they were in real estate. They had $400 million, but they had real core values. Now they're worth, because the TV money has gone up, they're worth $9 billion. It's a different world. It's multiple private jets, multiple yachts. Owners now are so removed from reality that they just don't understand. I mean, you've dealt with a guy that you're a year in and he's like, how come you can't win the Super Bowl? You didn't have those conversations. It used to be an accountant owned the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. An accountant.
Yep.
Accountant, the best accountant in the world, could not afford to own an NFL team. It's tech weirdos. It's oil weirdos.
Well, look, I always equate it to people want you to cook a turkey, but they want it cooked in the microwave. It's not going to taste very good. And those programs aren't built to last. When you're changing all the time, there's such a level of inefficiency. The organizations that have continuity, that have structure, that have things in place, you are constantly capitalizing on other teams that are transitioning mistakes. You've got reps built up. Everybody knows what you're looking for. That doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. And look, if they'd let us go in New England, because we started slow that second year.
We were 5-11 and then 0-2.
Yeah, 0-2. And when you look at Bill's record, he had one winning season prior to that in Cleveland. So if they had made the decision that Bill Belichick was no good, that the program we had wasn't going to work, and if we had changed as a staff, which we didn't, we did the same things consistently. We stuck to what we believed in, and it was a lot like an avalanche. The snow got piled up on the mountain, and then it hit. And it's been rolling downhill ever since in New England, but that took some time. It took some patience. Look, it took an element of good fortune too, but you can't just expect these overnight, quick turnaround jobs that are going to be built to last.
What about the Patriots' vulnerability? I mean, their turnover margin, meh. Pass rush, meh. Lost Gronk, no deep threat, meh. Their kicking game, which has always been a staple, is as weak as it's been. Gronkowski's not having as good a year. They don't create turnovers. Good news, they don't turn it over too much, but they have 21 fumbles this year. Thank God for New England, they've recovered 14 of them. Tom is 39. Don't they feel more vulnerable?
People talk about their vulnerability every year, and there's constant change there. The receivers, the turnover at all the positions, it's constant there, but there is a consistency of philosophy. And whenever you have Tom Brady, your vulnerability is limited because of what he can do. And from a coaching staff, they do a really good job of disguising those vulnerabilities, of limiting their downside, and then being able to look at other teams and say, okay, we're going to exploit that, and we're going to make sure you have to play the game left-handed. To me, that's their greatest strength. Is it's a team that's built on all the components, so everybody working together in a system, and it's a team that has flexibility to do what's best against your team and do what's best against the next team. They're not forced to play one system all the time, which really leaves you vulnerable if you run up against the wrong opponent.
Coach of the year, Jack Del Rio is going to get some votes. I think Adam Gase has made Ryan Tannehill the franchise quarterback. I mean, I think he's hit about his ceiling, but it's a pretty decent ceiling. I think even though they may not make the playoffs, I think Jay Gruden has made Kirk Cousins a really interesting player. Who would you choose, Coach of the Year?
Well, look, I'm not going to choose Coach of the Year yet, but the guy that I think needs to be in the discussion is Jason Garrett. And here's what I'm saying. When anybody talks about the Cowboys, they very rarely talk about Jason. It's everybody else. Now, when the Cowboys aren't playing well, nobody can talk about anything besides Jason and how he's either underachieved or they don't like his clock management or he's not assertive. Whatever the list of things that they want to criticize him about is, now he's got a team where he's playing a rookie running back, a rookie quarterback. He's dealt with – that's not easy. No matter how talented they are, that's not an easy thing to do. But yet he gets zero credit for already having 7 more wins than he had last season. So Jack had 7 wins last year. Look, I like the Raiders, what they've done. He's easily a candidate. But we're talking about a 7-win difference at this point for Jason. He's got to be in that discussion.
Do you know him?
Yeah, I've met him.
He seems smart.
He's really smart. He's even keeled. He doesn't get too high, doesn't get too low, and I think sometimes he takes heat for that. I think overall he's outstanding at looking at the big picture and being able to analyze the team, to self-analyze.
The anti-Rex Ryan.
Well, look, he's a very, very different personality than Rex Ryan. Very different personality. But how come you're not supporting him for that? I've never even heard you mention his name in that discussion.
I like Jason Garrett.
But
I like him a lot.
But not enough to think he could be Coach of the Year?
I would be okay with that. I like smart guys. And so, like, you're always very reluctant to criticize Rex Ryan because of the situation your paths crossed. So I think Rex is a meatball, but you'll never say that. But one of the things I don't like about him, I think he's overly emotional. I think he lives in the moment. Christine and I talk about this all the time. I like consistent people. We talked about it at the start of the show. My friends are consistent people who like the right stuff. They're into their families. They're into, stuff that matters. Like Jason Garrett, I don't know him. He looks like a guy who's into the things that matter. Like when I watched Dallas played for years and years, my takeaway was all the offensive players were better. Like Phil Jackson, the greatest compliment they always said, you always played your best basketball with Phil. You'd get traded somewhere else, you weren't quite the same player. Jason's offensive players, like they all get better. They come to the team and they get. Darren McFadden, I thought, was shot. He went to Dallas. He's a little better. I mean, I don't know if that's a quality or, but that's my appraisal of Jason Garrett. Guys get better with him.
Yeah, I see that as well. And it's interesting that you talk about the emotional component of it, because being raised in the football family that I was raised in, it was counterintuitive to be emotional on the sideline because you had to get ready for the next play.
Right.
You had to keep things under control. You had to focus the players. You were coaching, so to get caught up in emotion and lose minutes where you could be helping the players, that wasn't something that we ever did or ever believed in. But yet as a head coach, I was criticized for not being emotional enough. And so it's a fine line. Some people love the emotion and the fire, and they think that's what it's supposed to be. And then there's the thought process that your job is to keep everybody else centered and to be instructing and pushing the guys forward.
Pete Carroll has offered to scrimmage Washington to ready them for Bama. How serious would that be?
I can't imagine it's that serious. I don't even know where to start with that question. How would you set up a scrimmage like that? Would you be the show team for Washington? Would they be the show team for you? What's liability like? How much contact would there be? There's college athletes that are going to be nowhere near the athletes that the pro football players are.
Some are 20 years old.
And look, some are going to be really good athletes, but do you really want to put your players at risk if someone's falling down at the line of scrimmage and then your starting running back gets hurt, or, God forbid, your starting quarterback gets hurt, or one of the college kids is overzealous and hit? I mean, there's a lot of things there.
You wouldn't want to do it.
Well, no. Maybe in the preseason you could do something like that during training camp, but at this point, I think there's a lot of things. Now, Pete could also be just throwing the idea out there, letting it be talked about, and forcing everybody to make a decision whether or not pro players should be allowed to practice with college players. No, I'm not going to put. I don't know what Pete is thinking. Look, and I think Pete could be open to scrimmaging. Like, Pete's open for a lot of things.
Pete's different.
Yeah, and there might be something that comes out of that's great for everybody involved. It's just there's a lot of issues there, and it could be that statement which forces the NCAA and the NFL to say, hey, do we really want this happening? Is this in our collective best interest? And then passing down some sort of directive for everybody involved.
Eric Mangini, Hunch or Lunch is around the corner. Good seeing you, bud.
Good being here.
All right, it's that time. 7 games. I got to get 4 right within a point. We call it Hunch or Lunch. Let's roll it.
Colin's got a hunch.
Tell me you weren't thinking this too.
If he's less than 50%,
that is nothing.
We'll get lunch.
Woo-hoo!
It's Hunch or Lunch in the herd.
All right, 7 NFL games. I got to get 4 out of 7 within a point. Christine, let's go.
The first one is the Seahawks at Green Bay.
Seattle's going to be favored. Green Bay's really good at home. It's going to be a small number. It's a very, very big game. I'm going to go Seattle minus 1.5.
Minus 2.5. Very close.
Very close.
You were on the right track there.
Right.
Cowboys at Giants.
Hunch or lunch, meaning if I'm wrong, I have to buy the staff lunch, which I did last week. Say it again. What was your game?
Cowboys. Was I just not there when you did this, or?
Last week I did buy lunch for the staff, yeah.
Oh, okay.
You weren't there. You weren't available.
Oh, all right. Cowboys at Giants.
That's really interesting. Gosh, I have utter disdain for the Giants.
I'm having issues with my scoreboard over here. You got that one right. I'm trying to steal them from you.
I would say Dallas at the Giants. This is an interesting line. I'd say Dallas minus 3.5.
Very good. Dallas minus 3. So now you are 2-0.
2-0.
Looks like you might not have to buy us lunch. Steelers at Bills.
Okay, Steelers will be favored. Okay. Steelers minus 4.5.
No. Steelers minus 2.
Ooh, wow. That Vegas is telling you they like Buffalo to win that thing.
Is that what that is?
Well, it's lower than you'd expect. Like, it's half of what I would expect. Yeah, that's an interesting number. That tells you Vegas knows something. Generally, they're right. That game's going to be super close.
Okay. Redskins at Eagles.
I like Washington a lot.
How much?
Washington minus 2.5.
No. Redskins minus 1. That's it. You don't like that?
All right, 2-2. I got 3 to go. I got to get 2 out of 3 right. Here we go.
Texans at Colts.
Colts have a short week. They won last night. See, this is a total trap game. Because the Colts looked unbelievable. So everybody in the world is going to take the Colts.
Okay.
Okay, but they're on a short week.
Texans have lost 3 in a row.
Hey, stop giving hints.
I'm just little push.
You be quiet back there.
So give me the game again.
Texans at Colts.
Okay, so you would think it's a touchdown. But I'm not going to go touchdown. I'm going to go Indy minus 5.5. Yeah! What is it?
Minus 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, minus 6.
Yeah. That is a sucker bet. Watch out. Because everybody loves Indy after last night. They're good. They're not that good.
You're really excited about getting that one. Ravens at Patriots.
I think Baltimore's going to win this game.
Why?
I think Baltimore does a lot well.
Are you just saying that?
No. I think New England's incredibly vulnerable. I think Baltimore's really good. Vegas has Baltimore at 43-1. That doesn't even make sense. The AFC's never been weaker. They have a Super Bowl MVP quarterback. They have a good coach. You can't run on them. They can run. They don't turn it over. They take it away, and Flacco's red hot.
It's in New England, though.
So this is Baltimore at New England.
Mm-hmm.
I think Vegas, I think the fans are suckers here. This is a real game. I'm going to go New England's only favored by 3.
A whole touchdown. Minus 7.
New England's favored by 7?
Yep.
Oh, my God, that's ridiculous. That's the bet of the week.
I think it's great.
I get Baltimore plus 7?
You're saying people should take that.
Baltimore does multiple things well. New England's not even good at kicking. They've fumbled.
I know that is actually pretty true.
I mean, that's what they're always good at.
Week. And finally,
okay, here we go. This is the 7th game.
All the money. Broncos at Titans. It's a tough
God,
one.
this is tough.
Yeah.
Did Tennessee? Yeah,
we're not.
Tennessee
answering.
didn't have a bye. Did Tennessee play last week? Oh, Tennessee had a bye, so Tennessee's rested. And Tennessee, are you saying it's at Tennessee?
Yes.
Did Denver go to Jacksonville, or did Denver was home?
Do you
I didn't
want
watch.
me to just tell you?
No,
the
I didn't watch any.
or?
That's the one game I didn't see any of this week.
The Broncos game?
Was the Broncos? Were they at Jacksonville, or were they home? They were in Jacksonville. So Denver had to go to Jacksonville. Then
Score
they go
was
home.
20-10.
And then they go back to Tennessee. This game's at Tennessee. And Tennessee's off a bye.
Mm-hmm.
Woo-wee. This is for all the marbles. If I'm
Lunch?
right, I don't have to even acknowledge you in the hallway.
Oh.
If I'm wrong,
I didn't even get lunch last week.
we had lobster.
Did you really?
Oh yeah, and champagne.
Where'd you guys go? Downstairs. Champagne.
Moe's.
At Moe's. I didn't know they sold alcohol down there.
All right. Tennessee's favored, right? Can I start with that?
I'm not answering any questions for you like that.
Tennessee should be favored. So Tennessee, here we go. This is for all the marbles. Tennessee minus 2.5.
Tennessee -1. So, lobster and champagne again this week? I don't like either lobster or champagne, really.
You don't like champagne? You're
Maybe,
crazy.
I can only have a glass of champagne, otherwise I start to feel a little sick. It's too much carbonation.
Yeah, it's got a lot of sugar in it.
A lot of sugar. I start to feel hungover after my first glass of champagne immediately. It's a
You know what I
weird
did
thing.
last night?
Drink.
I had a beer with my buddy Ryan.
Your
and
buddy
we ate
Ryan?
chicken fingers and French fries
That's what I had for dinner.
at Shellbacks.
I love that I had chicken fingers and French fries at the Laker game last night.
It was so good.
But not beer. I had
Shellbacks
vodka.
is a total dive. I love it.
It is a great place.
It's a-
And you have a love for French fries, the
Sweet
sweet potato
potatoes.
fries.
So good. Don't forget theherdnow.com. Chris Broussard, Peter Schrager, both on our show tomorrow.